Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the BetRivers Network, as always, brought to you by the good folks at Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. Make it your summer drink this summer and drink responsibly, as always. Now, before I get to the schedules, the Jets, the Giants, overall, we will have full coverage of Game 6 of the Knicks tomorrow, preview, post. We'll have a same-game parlay we'll put up also. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'll figure it out. Don't expect OG to play. I don't expect you're going to see him in Game 6 or 7. If it goes 7, Celtics now waiting in the wings. Before we get to any of that, the Rangers have a big Game 6 this evening. I know there was some rumors about the Rangers being sick. I checked that out and was told that they were rumors. They don't know how they get started, but the Rangers are fine. Nothing, out of the ordinary. Anybody was under the weather's good. So nothing. No, they said it was just they heard the same rumors, but nothing to it. The interesting thing there is this. They have, in a way, let Carolina off the hook. We know they're a very dangerous team. The advantages that they had early in the season, in the series, other than the goaltenders, seem to have dissipated. But here's the thing, the way I was thinking about it. The Rangers will now, for the first time, face a dangerous game under some adverse situational pressure tonight. For the first time in this postseason, they got off very well against the team that was overmatched in the first round. They were comfortably in front the whole series. They very rarely were even trailing in the series. They got off great in this series. They won the close games. They got a 3-0 lead. Now they've lost 2 games in a row, and now they don't want any part of Game 7, especially when they were up 3-0. So this becomes a very big game tonight, and the first time they've had to face some adversity. They didn't play well in Game 5. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. I think they're very much built to respond to that. But the thing is, they, for the first time, have to adjust. They have to come back from playing poorly. They have to not ride the wave as they've done the entire postseason. They need now to dig in and get going again. So it'll be very interesting to watch that this evening. Fascinating, as a matter of fact, to see if they can get that thing restarted tonight. And all these games have been close anyway, but get back to doing what they need to do and hold off Carolina from a Game 7, because the pressure in a Game 7 after being up 3-0 is just extraordinary. And we have had teams in hockey do this before and win. We've had them come back from 3-0 and get to 3-3. We've had them come back from 3-0 and win. So it can be done. But there's clearly now some pressure and some adversity for the Rangers to face for the first time in the postseason. Let's see now how they respond to that. The schedule's out, as you know. It's always a big deal when it is out. Always a big deal when it is out. As far as the Jets, it's what you would expect. It's very heavy prime time, especially early. They open up on Monday night against San Francisco, maybe the toughest game on their schedule. They play the first 2 weeks on the road. Their first home game is the Pats on a Thursday night. They'll play in Europe early in the season, play Minnesota on a 9:30 all-time game. They're decorated with Monday, Thursday. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 primetime games, and obviously a date at 9:30 with Europe. And late in the season, they play a lot of Sunday games, not nearly the primetime games. Their primetime games are all very much in the first 2 months of the season. The main reason for that is the NFL looks to put star attractions early. They know after Thanksgiving, basically everything is watched. So they try to front load as much as they need to. They need the marquee value in September and October. They don't need it after Thanksgiving because that's the height of the football season. Everyone's looking for the postseason and thinking about the playoffs, and everyone's watching all the games as the weather changes and everything else. When they need the help is early. When you look at the schedule, I always look for real rough patches and where you can recover. Their schedule, to me, they will finish at Buffalo and Miami, which could be very critical. They have a couple of nice stretches. Like, I really like this stretch. At Arizona, home against the Colts, a bye, then Seattle. So that is a very, very good couple of weeks there. At a point in the season where you're starting to get banged up, at a point in the season where you've probably had some injuries that you're worried about, and then you look to make the stretch run. They'll see Miami twice in the last 5 weeks. They'll also play Jacksonville in that time on the road, and they'll see Buffalo on the road also. So that late part of the schedule is not easy. And it's very much intense to the division with 2 with Miami and 1 with Buffalo in the last 5 weeks. As we said, of their first 6 games, 4 of them are in prime time. At San Francisco, home on a Thursday night to New England, at Buffalo, coming back home against Buffalo on a Monday night, and then at Pittsburgh the following Sunday. They also will see Houston on a Thursday and Indy on a Sunday. So they play a lot of primetime games, and they play a lot of them early in the season. The Giants' schedule, well, if they're looking at it from a forecast standpoint, they aren't expecting big things from the Giants because the Giants' trips to the primetime cameras are few and far between. They see Dallas on a Thursday night in week 4. They play Cincy at home on a Sunday night. They play at Pittsburgh on a Monday night. And then they play Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. The Thanksgiving trio are Bears at Lions, which should be very interesting. Lions are going to be a big attraction, plus the Bears with the number 1 pick. Cowboys hosting the Giants in the middle game, and then then the third game of the Troika is Miami at Green Bay. So Lions, Dallas, and Packers hosting the Thanksgiving games. Of course, the Lions and Dallas always host the Thanksgiving games. Now, the Giants' schedule is a little scary in a couple of spots. This spot bothers me here. First 2 weeks, they got a chance to get off very well. Number 1, they play Minnesota week 1. They could wind up playing against a rookie quarterback in week 1. At Washington, game 2, that'll be a winnable game against another rookie quarterback. So they're going to see maybe rookie quarterbacks in the first 2 games. Get a chance to get off to a good start with a defense that'll have a big pass rush. Because then batten down the hatches. At Cleveland, nasty. Anybody going to Cleveland is going to have a very tough time. Dallas on a Thursday night. So very short turnaround right there. Cleveland, Dallas, back-to-back in 5 days. At Seattle, never easy. Home Sunday night against Cincy. Then Philly at home at Pittsburgh. So Cleveland, Dallas, at Seattle, Cincy, Philly, at Pitt. There's the nasty part of the schedule. There's the part of the schedule that is going to make or break the Giants. Cleveland, Dallas Thursday night, at Seattle, Cincy prime time, Eagles at Pitt in a Monday nighter. That is a rough stretch of schedule right there. And it's going to tell you a lot. Giants have Tampa coming in their building this year, New Orleans coming in their building this year, Baltimore coming in their building this year, Indianapolis coming in their building this year. So outside of the division, their games at home are games they can win. Cincy obviously won't be easy. But otherwise, it's not that bad. They're also playing in Europe against Carolina in the middle of the season. But that, and it comes out of a Giant. See, that gives the Giants actually 7 road games because you call that game a neutral. And the Giants are still playing 4, 5, 6, 7. They're still playing all their home games. And the reason why is they don't want to take away a Giant home game. They try to take the home games away from teams that are weak. So the teams that don't draw. So the Giants get a little break there. But that one stretch of schedule scares me. It really does. They only see prime time, as I told you, 3 times and Thanksgiving. The Jets are in prime time 6 times. And 6 times in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6 times in the first 11 weeks they are in prime time. You're going to see plenty of them, starting with the first Monday night game. So, you look at an NFL schedule, very few jump out at you as you say, wow, that's a soft schedule. The Giants' schedule is not soft. The Jets' schedule is not soft. One time through for each. Here's the Jets at San Francisco on a Monday night, followed by a trip to Tennessee. Okay, 2 on the road. Then the Pats on Thursday. Get a little time off. Now they play Denver at home. Then they play Minnesota in Europe. Then they come back and play Buffalo on Monday night. Then at Pittsburgh. So they got Buffalo at home on Monday night, and then they play at Pitt. They play at New England. Then they play Houston on Thursday night. They play at Arizona. They play Indy. They have a bye. They play Seattle. Like I told you, that's a stretch of the schedule where they not only can get healthy, they can win a lot of games right there. Arizona, Indy at home, by Seattle. Then they get at Miami, at Jacksonville, Rams, at Buffalo, Miami. So they close Buffalo, Miami. Now you always close with a division game, but they close with 2 division games. And they have Miami twice in the last 5 weeks. There's nothing there where I'm saying, oh, I hate this part of that schedule. What I'm worried about with the Giants as I go through it is they open Minnesota at Washington. That tells me right now the Giants have to get off fast with these 2 games because right after that, at Cleveland, very rough game. Dallas at home, rough game. At Seattle, never an easy game. Cincy, Sunday night, never an easy game. Philadelphia at Pittsburgh. That's a rough stretch. Then they get Washington, Carolina, a bye, Tampa Bay. Washington at home, Carolina in Europe, a bye, and then Tampa at home. They can get healthy there, too. That's a nice little stretch. At Dallas on Thanksgiving, the extra time off. New Orleans at home, Baltimore at home. At Atlanta, Indy, at Philly. So, not an easy schedule. Neither team has a soft schedule. Giants' schedule scares me a little more. First of all, because they're not as good as the Jets. Secondly, that stretch after the first two games bothers me. The Giants need to get off those first 2 weeks against Minnesota and Washington because they might be seeing rookie quarterbacks in both games. If they get off to 2-0, that would be very good considering what's coming over that next 5 or 6 weeks. But week one, Minnesota at home for the Giants. Week one at San Francisco on a Monday night for the Jets. The first game of the schedule, Baltimore at Kansas City, will be a heck of a game. That's the Thursday night opener. Kansas City, which you know is a TV show now. They're on TV all the time. But how about this? How about this one? Kansas City this year will be televised every day of the week except Tuesday. Yep. They play obviously their regular Sunday night games and Monday night games, which they dot the schedule. You know that. They have the Thursday night opener to start the season. They play on Christmas Day, which is a Wednesday. They play at Pittsburgh. The Christmas doubleheader is Kansas City at Pittsburgh and Baltimore at Houston. Nice doubleheader. They play on Friday. They play the Black Friday game against the Raiders. So, you know that, and late in the season, they will play on Saturday. Late in the season, they have one of the nationally televised Saturday games. So they have a Saturday game. They have obviously Sunday and Monday games. They have a Wednesday game because it's Christmas. And they have a Friday game because they're playing the Black Friday game. So they are playing every day in the week except Tuesday. I don't know why they couldn't just find a Tuesday game and then play them every day of the week. The NFL doesn't play on Tuesday. It's the only day it doesn't play. This year, the only day the NFL does not have a game on is Tuesday. They're playing Friday. They're playing Wednesday. They're playing all the time. They've taken over Black Friday. They now are playing a doubleheader on Christmas, which kills the NBA. And they're playing their Thanksgiving triple. Tom Brady's first game on TV for Fox, if you're interested, will be at Dallas at Cleveland in week one. Dallas at Cleveland in week one. That's what he will open with. You know what? The bottom line is, if you're the Jets, is that a schedule you can win with? Absolutely. If you can stay healthy. If you can keep Rodgers healthy. If you can have this offensive line develop the way you expect it to develop. With the money you spent and the premium picks you spent and the free agent money you spent on the offensive lineman. I think the Jets have if they can keep him healthy, and I think with this team they can, I think they're going to win 10 games this year or more. The Giants, it's iffier. But they're going to have a good pass rush. They could have a winning season. They could. We just have to see more of what they come up with the finished product. What that looks like before we get all excited about them. It's amazing how the NFL turns even the schedule into such a big deal. It's unbelievable that the attention the schedule gets is remarkable. That it is such a machine in everything they do. It is utterly remarkable. It really is. They have so much lapped the field. They have and the Netflix games. You want a sign of things to come. The Netflix games are streamed on Netflix on Christmas Day. Both games. So Merry Christmas. Into your pocket they go. Both games on Christmas are on Netflix. Now Netflix is involved. And those are that's their foray into the streaming games on Christmas Day. So into your pocket again they go. Because it worked for them last year. If it works once, and they get the cash register going, they just keep ka-chinging it. You know that. Now, tomorrow we will have, obviously, review Knicks on Friday night, leading up to whether or not they get ready to take on the Celtics or get ready for a Sunday Game 7. I believe, despite how easy Game 5 turned out to be, and it did turn out to be a laugher, I think Indiana will win Game 6. I think Indiana's just a lot better at home. They're not a team with a lot of guts, not a team with a lot of heart, not a team that plays any defense. They're an offensive team that when they get the machine rolling can be very tough, and they can beat the Knicks with numbers. Halliburton will bounce back after a really lackluster performance in Game 5. I'm sure they took a lot of heat in Indiana over what they did in Game 5. I'm sure their coaching staff let them know how unhappy they were with their effort. There were a couple of plays there. Like I told you, there were a couple of plays there that if I were coaching, I would wear them out in showing them these plays. There was a play where McBride beat Halliburton, and Turner was in the paint, and he was driving right at Turner, and Turner never moved a muscle as McBride went by him and laid it in. And then there was that play that even Van Gundy made a big deal about, where Hart missed the jumper, and then with his typical energy and burst of, just intensity, he went up, got the ball, and laid it back in. He beat all the Pacers, just stood there flat-footed as Hart came in, followed his miss, and went right back up and laid it in. Atrocious effort plays, or I should say lack of effort plays by Indiana. Indiana should be mortified for what they did in Game 5, and I think they will play a completely different game in Game 6, and I think this one will be somewhere in between what you saw in Game 5 when the Knicks really hung in, and what we saw in Game 6, what we saw in Game 3 when the Knicks really hung in, and what we saw in Game 4 when the Knicks got just the doors blown off. I don't think it will be doors blown off, but I think it will be a hard game to win, and I think we will get Game 7. And then I can tell you right now, I think the Knicks, hopefully with OG playing in the next round, and I'm hopeful that he's playing in the next round, I think the Knicks have a very good chance. I don't want to put the cart before the horse and start talking about the Knicks and Celtics, but just let me say that I like the matchup in terms of producing a long series. There's a lot of things I like about that matchup for the Knicks. But first things first, win Game 7 here. The thing that happened is 5 was so easy that everybody now has it in their head that, hey, even if we lose 6, they're going to come back and definitely win 7. Remember, Game 5, they didn't show up. I don't have the reason why. It was a embarrassing performance by Indiana, but go back to Games 1 and 2, and they could have won either game. Especially one. So do not think it's because of what happened in Game 5 that it's automatically an easy Game 7. It won't be. It will not be. But I do think the Knicks are going to find their way to the conference championship round, where they'll await the Celtics, where the Celtics will be waiting. And see, I'm not surprised Denver came back. I thought Denver was going to come back on Minnesota. I was like, if Denver's who we think they are, and Jokic is who we think he is, they're coming back. And he was every bit. Plus his Game 5. His Game 5 the other night was it belongs in a museum. It was a masterpiece. 40 points on very high efficiency shooting. 7 rebounds and 13 assists. 40 points, 7 rebounds, 13 assists in a pivotal Game 5, and that against supposedly a top defensive player, and that is a masterpiece. Nothing short. He is an amazing basketball player, and they are very much the team to beat. Plus, I think they win another championship. I would expect them to close out Game 6, not go 7. I expect them to close out Game 6. I'd be surprised if they don't. I just don't think they want to keep the door open any more than this. I think they want to close it right now. And, we talked about how if Luka was healthy, he would be the difference in that series. He has teetered on the brink of being unhealthy at times. He looked bad in Game 4. He looked terrific in Game 5. And now Dallas is one step away. I think that'll probably go 7, and Dallas will probably win. I think there's a very wait a second. I'm not. Let me rethink that. I'm not sure that would go 7. No, I think that would go 6. I'm trying to think of that if I thought they would surprise everyone and again have the road team win another game there. Like they took 4, and then the Mavericks went and took 5 in their place. No, I think it'll end in 6. And the more I think about it, I think they'll end in 6. Not fool with the 7th game. Although I think it'll be a very close game. See, with the hard part there is you just don't know what days Lucas seems to be himself and what days he doesn't. When he's himself, they find a way to win. And he clearly is not 100%. Clearly. But I think they're going to be victorious. And this is a good learning experience for Oklahoma City. Very, very much a good learning experience for them. PGA is underway in Valhalla under beautiful conditions. The course is soft today, so it looks like they're going to put up some early scoring. The early sampling of scoring is very, very high. Meaning very good. The scoring is, so I should say very low. That's a bad word to use in golf. Scoring is very low, so the scoring is very impressive early on. So I think that it looks like it will continue for a while. Schauffele's already 4 under, Spieth, Hovland 3 under, a bunch of people 2 under, and these guys are just getting started. So they are really able to go after the flags today because the course is very conducive to that. And the scores today, if you're out there early, especially today, I don't know if the wind's going to kick up or not. It seems like a nice day there. Looks like they're going to put up some good scores right off the bat. Scheffler is playing. He was the heavy favorite. Rory, off his win last week, and the fact he's won at this course, is the second favorite. Then you have Koepka and Edberg and Rahm, and then you go from there. So I thought Victor Hovland was a really good price. He was 40-1, which I thought was he hasn't played well this year. And I took him once before in the Masters at a big price. But I just can't pass up Hovland at that price. I mean, he's just too big a price. Plus, I took Hovland and Rahm because it's the first time I've seen Rahm at 20-1 in forever, and I couldn't pass it up. I won't take Scheffler at 4-1. I love Scheffler, and he's the best player right now by a good margin, but I won't take him at 4-1 against a really good field. I thought about taking Koepka, who won in Singapore last week, but he was only 14-1. Rahm was 20-1, so I thought Rahm was a steal at 20-1, and Hovland. I want to make sure that I quote the exact price that I got on Hovland, just to make sure that I give you, so I didn't mess it up. But I'm pretty sure it was 40. But let me look at it just to make sure. Let me just look at the exact score price that I got, just so I can quote the right one. I'm pretty sure it was 40. I was attracted to Zalatoris at 70-1, but he's got a bad back. That's the only reason I stayed away from that. Hovland 40, Rahm 20. Those were the two I took in that. And they're underway at the PGA. Scheffler's playing, Tiger's playing, Mickelson's playing. Tiger on the first tee he just looked like he was in pain already. I mean, it's just so hard for him to only play these majors where he doesn't play in between, does not keep him sharp. Plus, it just seems like he's lumbering to the first tee. There's no pep in his step. I just think he's hurting. I really do. Plus, we'll have I won't do a whole full blown out thing on the Preakness because I don't think it's a very good race. But the good thing is that Mystic Dan is in there. Now, Muth, who would have been the favorite, who was banned from Kentucky because Baffert's horses aren't allowed to run there, he's out. He had a temperature. He spiked, so he's out. I'll go through the field and I'll put up 3 picks. I don't think it's a great race by any stretch of the imagination. But Mystic Dan's in there, so when you have the Derby winner, it at least gives you the idea of discussion about a Triple Crown because there's only one horse that can do that, and he's in the race. Now, whether he runs well on 2 weeks rest is debatable, and you don't get the idea that Kenny McPeak won any part of this, but the ownership did. They're sportsmen. I give them credit for that because it's good for the sport that they did it. It really is. So we'll have that. We'll have all the Nick stuff coming up. Now, when we come back, some emails. All right, you email me at Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com. Send the emails, Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com. Let's get to a couple here. And remember, the podcast is, as always, on the BetRivers Network for all your wagering needs. Download the BetRivers app. It's all you'll ever need. Plus, they have very generous offerings to you in a lot of different categories. Also brought to you by the good folks at Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. Now, we start with Lawrence. Would you give OG a max deal considering his constant injuries? No. I would expect to get him underneath a max deal. All right? You're going to have to pay Brunson a lot of money. You know that. You got him on the cheap. And when he came here, I told you I thought that contract was going to turn out to be a great bargain. I did not, for the life of me, ever expect him to go to the level he's gone to. I thought he was going to be a really nice, good number 2 guy. I did not know he was going to become this. Nor anybody else, but I'm not saying I did. But I did think he was going to be a very good player here. Not a great player, though, and he's become a great player. How does the racing community view Bob Baffert these days? I think with suspicion. I think there have been way too many stories and way too many promises and way too many times that he has clearly violated the rules and clearly has been caught red-handed in giving his horses things that are illegal to enhance their performances. So is he guilty of cheating? Absolutely is. 100% is. And I like Bob personally. He's a nice guy. He's an easy guy to like. He's had great success. But let's be honest, it's got to be a level playing field. And he's drugging horses. That's all there is to it. The evidence is overwhelming. If you look at the evidence, it's overwhelming that he's drugging the horses. Travis, do you think Thurman Munson should be in the Hall of Fame? Why or why not? These Hall of Fame questions like this are always tough because they're highly subjective. Plus, now you have the other elements of this. What he brought in terms of leadership with his role as the captain, what he also having his life cut short the way it was. How does that play into the dialogue? How does that play into the story? And it clearly does. I am an exceedingly hard grader. I don't think on performance that he was a Hall of Famer. And here's the thing. When you're talking about guys like him or Keith Hernandez or Don Mattingly, and Mattingly's a very odd case because he actually would have been if he had not been injured. The problem is he did not have the ability to have any more of those big years once his back went because the power left. But he was on his way without any question. You have to be superior over a period of time, over a significant period of time. And like I said, I am a hard grader, but the fact that you say somebody is not a Hall of Famer who might have had some great years and won championships and won MVPs, and it should not in any way take away see what happens in the commentary and what happens in these kind of debates is it is taken as a attack if you say the guy's not a Hall of Famer. That should not be the case. No one is. The Hall of Fame is for the best of the best, the top 1% in the history of the sport, the creme de la creme. To say a guy is not a Hall of Famer should never in any sport be considered a knock. Immortals are Hall of Famers, and then guys who aren't immortal but have wonderful careers can also get in. I think of the Hall of Famers as being the guys that you don't have to debate. So is Thurman a Hall of Famer based on his baseball numbers? No, he's not. Was he a good player? Superb player. As was Mattingly, as was Keith Hernandez, as was, we can go down the line. It does not take away. When you think Hall of Fame, you think Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, okay? Those are, Joe DiMaggio, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the greatest players who ever played. They're giants. They're immortals. Those are the no-brainers. So I don't mean it as any part of a knock, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. This is from Michael. The Mets are tough to watch. The lineup is so inconsistent and boring. What can they do? Listen, I agree with what Stearns is doing here. What he's doing is he is separating the herd. He is going to get rid of guys, as he did Wendell, based on performance. What he asked is, once they did not get Ohtani, once they did not get the big pitcher, they decided, and rightly so, we're not going to spend our money foolishly and overspend for players that don't deserve to be overspent on. What we're going to do is we're going to take a season and evaluate. Now, it was a tough sell to sell the fans a 500 season, which is what they were selling them. Because anything more would have been nonsense. And I don't even think they're going to have a 500 season with what they have right now, because the pitching's been good except for the number of walks they've given up. And their hitting has been atrocious. Now, Martinez is going to help. And when they get the catcher back, that's going to help too. But they've got to get Lindor and Alonso going on a major, and McNeil, get all three of them going on in a major way for them to have any consistency. Yes, there were way too many nights when the Mets are getting 2 hit after 6 innings. Some nights they rally, some nights they don't. They're getting shut out too much. It's almost, listen, the last couple of weeks we've seen them almost no hit 2 or 3 different times. We can see them shut out repeatedly. I mean, it's ugly. And Atlanta and Philly just outclassed them so dramatically, it's scary. So it's very hard to take right now. And as they start to sink under 500, as that path starts to widen, and there's no reason right now you would think it wouldn't widen, it's going to be a tough sell. And I'll tell you something else. And this is going to be the real hard part. They're not going to draw flies in the second half of the season because they're not drawing now. Their ballpark is empty most days. I look at it a lot of nights and say, wow, there's nobody there. Now, the weather's been atrocious here this spring. Atrocious. But they're not drawing. And the Yankees are giving their fans an exciting product. And they're winning, and they're hitting a bunch of home runs. They're third in the majors right now in home runs. That should improve. They have exceptional talent. 2 of the 5 best players or 4 best players in the sport on the same team. They are giving you a product that you're willing to go see and go pay for. The Mets are not. What attracts you to Citi Field right now? Nothing. And I never, ever tell fans not to go to games, ever, nor would I ever. It's not a right thing to do. But I understand why there's empty seats right now. And this is going to be a painful season. And he has got to reward, he being Cohen, he being Stearns, have to reward the Met fans for what you're going to do to them the rest of this year, which is put them to sleep. And offer them very little bang for their buck. Okay? And bobbleheads aren't going to cut it. You think a bobblehead is going to, be the magical elixir, or retiring somebody's number is going to do it for you. It's not. You got to give them some baseball excitement. You got to give them a reason to come to the ballpark. But like I said in the beginning, I agree with what Stearns is doing. Divide the herd based on what he gets a chance to see. All right, I want to look at this guy. I want him gone. Next guy, I want to look at him. They need to look and make decisions about their young players. They need to make decisions about who they want to keep and who they want to send as they start to go after. Listen, they're going to go after premium players. They're going to go after a big pitcher next year. They're going to go after Soto. We all know they're going after Soto next year. They'd be dumb not to. Can they land Soto? I don't know. Will money talk, or will he have fallen in love with the Bronx and take a little home team discount? I don't know. That'll remain to be seen. And they're going to add big players. And don't be surprised if you see him start to move guys out of here. Either guys who you thought were part of their building who disappoint, or guys who just got to a point that they need to change the scenery. McNeil might need to change the scenery. He can't keep playing like he's playing. If somebody in a pennant race wants to give you something for Marte, you take it. Now, are you going to move Lindor? Is Lindor here to stay? Yes. No one's going to touch that contract. He'll get better, and he plays every day, but no one's touching that contract anyway. Are they going to make the move on Alonso or not? The slump sure didn't help. And I think right now, if push comes to shove, they're going to trade him. And there'll be a market for him. They better get something good for him, because they're going to miss what he brings to the team. I understand he hasn't had the year this year. They have to find out who can play and who can't. They have to find out about guys like Beatty and about, listen, their catcher can play. We know he can hit. We know he can play. No one's talking about him. They need to look at guys who are close to being major league ready and see whether they can play here. They have to make decisions about the young guys who have been part of this, who are here, and they have to ask them, can they play or not play? He has to make those decisions this year and get rid of the guys that he can, and then clear the path to bring in the jewels that he wants to bring in. That's how this has to work. Like, can you get Senga back the second half of the season and plug him in as your number 2 starter? Hopefully. Then go get an ace and put him in front of him next year. Don't worry about Diaz. Diaz is not comfortable right now. He just doesn't have proper command. It'll all come for him. I wouldn't worry about that. And they've had some guys give them surprising years, like Garrett, who's given them a sensational year. But they also have a lot of guys giving them lousy years, led by Lindor and Alonso. And they need to give their fan base a reason to be energized. What's the reason you're going to the ballpark right now? What's going to make you forget the fan who has season tickets? You got him. You're just trying to keep him. The question is, there are fans out there, and a lot of them. I told you this at the start of the season, and they never in this town talk about this group, and it's a much bigger group than you think, who are going to go to 4 or 5 ball games this summer, and they're going to do it based on where the excitement is. This is a front-running town, and those people are all buying Yankee tickets. They're not buying Met tickets. And that's a big problem. So they not only need to move and be aggressive in their development and clear the way for what they want to bring in, have a plan of what they want to bring in, what they want to aggressively go after, have that place carved out for those guys, and get ready to move some of the other guys if that's the case. It might be time for some of these guys. And if you have young guys that are closer, or you think they're closer and deserve a look here, then give them a look here. There's nothing wrong with that. But right now, you can understand the Met fans' frustration, and you also have to say, what is bringing you to the ballpark? And the answer right now is not much. Kevin, it's hard to listen to the TNT broadcast when Reggie Miller and the team are clearly biased. Listen, I think that is such nonsense. Complete nonsense. These guys aren't. You know what they're rooting for? I've been around network broadcasts my whole life, since I was 20 years old. And I've heard the same complaints. And I can tell you that when I was a baby and we were on the road and we went to L.A., they screamed about how the announcers were completely biased towards the Celtics. Oh, you listen to Auerbach. Oh, Red Auerbach. Oh, you're listening to this one. Oh, you're listening to that one. Oh, and then you get to Boston and it's, can you be any further? Kissing up to Magic Johnson and Kareem. Blah, blah, blah. It's all in the eye of the beholder. And everybody thinks that the network announcers are biased towards the other team now and not their team. Why? Because you're comparing it to half the time a homer who's doing your game. Is that what you want in the network? Is that what you want in the playoffs? You want to watch that? Well, you can watch your team for a long time. Well, turn your radio on and get a complete homer view of your team. The guy doing the game is doing the game down the middle. I can tell you right now, there might be one chance in 50 that they don't like somebody to the point where it shows or something like that happening, but it's very, very few and far between. The other thing is, the only thing they're rooting for is a good, close game because that helps them. That's all they want. They want the ratings to be good for their game because that gets them more work. And they want a good, close game. That's the only thing that a network announcer is ever rooting for is a good game. So he's got a good broadcast to sell you. Otherwise, it's just human nature to believe this has been going on forever. But remember, you're comparing it to guys who are biased. So turn on Johnny Most and have him whining about the officials every time, a Celtic fouls somebody or, oh, he got hit, he got killed. You want to hear that? Then turn on your local guy and he'll give you that. But the network announcer is not going to give you that. Is he biased? Why? Because Reggie played for the Pacers 20 years ago? He doesn't care about that. Now, do the old Knicks want the Knicks to win? Yeah, but they're sitting in the stands cheering. I also didn't think John Stark should be out, talking to the players during the game. I thought that was crazy. I think that's pushing it a little too much. You are there to watch the game, let the players play. You can't throw yourself into it just because you were an ex-player. You can't. You got to keep yourself out of it. Keep your distance. I mean, nothing wrong with them being in the front row and rooting like crazy, but keep your distance. But do I believe that about the network announcers? No, I don't. And I've heard it forever. And every network person hears it forever. And it changes by the city you go into. What? Vince Scully during the World Series of the playoffs, oh, he's anti-New York. Vince Scully's anti-New York? I mean, come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, but that's what you get. You get it with every announcer. It's just, hey, Mike Breen does the Knick games. He's doing a game down the middle when he's doing a network game. He's as professional as you could possibly be. I mean, come on. He's giving you the basketball game. That's what he's giving you. If Breen's biased to anybody, it's the officials. He hates to get officials beat up. He's very pro-official. He always has been. So he doesn't like to beat on the officials or anybody beating on the officials. Other than that, he has no biases. So don't get crazy about that stuff because it's so overblown. It's nonsense. Just watch the game and enjoy it. And I understand that when your local TV guy's not there, you're not happy because you want a familiar voice. You want someone who knows your team intimately. Does that guy know your team better than the guy who's a network guy? Well, I hope so. He's been with the team the whole year. Your network guy has been doing other games. He's been doing complete schedules. He hasn't been around your team every day. So, of course, the local guys know the team better. They have to. They've been with us since February. or in baseball since spring training, or in basketball since October. But as far as the network guys being biased, nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Don't even go there, because I'm telling you, all they want is a close game. We'll see you later.